High Commander Joho stood at the large window of the Galactic Council's main chamber. His four eyes blinked slowly as he watched the countless ships move through space around the massive station. Each ship carried representatives from different alien species. All of these species were now part of the Council, and all of them had joined in the same way, through force or fear. Jaiho's gray skin wrinkled as he frowned. The report in his hands troubled him deeply. It spoke of a new species that had achieved faster-than-light travel on their own. This had never happened before. The Council had always guided other species, showing them the right path after making them submit to Council authority. "High Commander," a voice called from behind him. "The emergency meeting is ready to begin." Jaiho turned away from the window. The chamber was now full of Council members. Some had physical forms like him, while others appeared as holograms from their home worlds. All of them looked worried. "Show us the human space footage again," Jaiho ordered. The room's center lit up with a large hologram. It showed a small solar system with 8 planets. The third planet from the sun glowed blue and green. Around it, crude but working spaceships moved in organized patterns. Some ships were clearly meant for war, while others carried cargo between Earth and its colonies on Mars and the Moon. "As you can see," Jaiho said, pointing at the hologram, "these humans have developed space travel without our help. Our observers report that they achieved this despite having many wars among themselves." He paused to let this sink in. Even more surprising, they often ended these wars through talk and agreements, not total victory. Murmurs filled the chamber. This was not normal. Species usually fought until one side won completely. The idea of stopping a war to talk was strange to them. Admiral Sunma stepped forward. She was known throughout the Council space for winning many battles. Her black uniform showed her many medals for combat victories. "High Commander," she said firmly, "we must act now. These humans are dangerous. They fight, then make peace, then fight again. We don't understand how they think. This makes them a threat." Jaiho nodded slowly. Sunmai was right. The Council had succeeded for thousands of years by being predictable. When they found a new species, they showed their power. The new species would then submit and join the Council. It was simple, and it worked. "What do you suggest, Admiral?" Jaiho asked. Sunmi touched a control panel, and the hologram changed. It now showed the Council's third fleet, 500 warships, each bigger than anything the humans had. "We send the third fleet to block all routes to and from human space," she said. "We show them our power. They will have 2 choices, submit to us or fight. Either way, we know how to handle it." Yunho, the fleet commander who would lead this mission, spoke up. "The humans have no ships that can fight ours. Their weapons are primitive. They will see our power and submit, like all others before them." Jaiho walked around the hologram, studying the fleet formation. They might try to fight anyway. The reports say humans sometimes fight even when they can't win. "Let them," Sunmai said with a smile. "A quick defeat will teach them their place." But something bothered Jaiho. He looked at another report on his datapad. "It says here that humans have a strange habit. Throughout their history, their worst enemies often became their closest friends. How does this happen?" Tairi, the Council's expert on alien species, stepped forward. Unlike the others in their military uniforms, she wore simple civilian clothes. "That's what makes humans interesting, High Commander. They fight terrible wars, but then they help rebuild their enemies' lands. They make trades with those they once fought. It's very unusual. It's dangerous," Sunmai cut in. "We can't trust a species that acts this way. What if they pretend to submit, then attack us later?" The chamber grew noisy as Council members argued. Some agreed with Sunmai that humans must be controlled quickly. Others wanted to study them more first. Jaiho raised his hand for silence. As High Commander, his word was final. He had led the Council for 200 years by making careful choices. But humans worried him. They didn't fit any pattern he knew. Admiral Sun Mai is right, he finally said. We can't risk letting humans develop further. They must learn their place in the galaxy. He turned to Young Ho. Commander, take the Third Fleet. Block all paths to and from human space. Show them our power, but do not attack first. Let's see how they respond. Young Ho bowed and left to prepare his fleet. Sun Mai looked pleased, but Tairi seemed worried. High Commander, Tairi said softly, what if humans surprise us? What if they don't submit or fight? There is no third option, Jai Ho replied. That's how the galaxy works. The strong lead, the weak follow. Humans will learn this, one way or another. As the council members left the chamber, Jai Ho returned to the window. Soon, the Third Fleet would leave. 500 of the most powerful ships ever built would confront humanity. In all his years, no species had resisted once they saw the Council's true power. But humans were different. They had grown strong without help. They fought wars but knew how to make peace. They turned enemies into friends. For the first time in his long life, Jai Ho felt uncertain. The next few days were busy. Young Ho gathered his fleet at the edge of Council space. His ships carried the best weapons and strongest shields. Each ship had a crew of highly trained warriors. They had done this many times before, showing new species their place in the galaxy. On his flagship's bridge, Young Ho watched his fleet form up. The ships looked beautiful and deadly, their dark metal hulls reflecting distant starlight. His 4 hearts beat with pride. This was true power. Commander, his sensor officer called out. All ships report ready. We can jump to human space on your order. Young Ho smiled. Send one last message to High Command. Tell them we're beginning the operation. The fleet's engines glowed bright blue. Space bent around them as they prepared to jump. Young Ho had studied the humans' defenses. They had some orbital weapons and a small fleet of warships. Nothing that could stop even one of his ships, let alone 500. Fleet, jump on my mark, he ordered. 3, 2, 1, jump. The fleet vanished in flashes of light. When they reappeared, Earth's sun shone in the distance. Young Ho ordered his ships to spread out in a sphere around human space. No ship would enter or leave without the Council's permission. Send the standard warning to all human ships, Young Ho commanded. Any vessel that approaches our blockade will be considered hostile. His communications officer worked quickly. Soon, they picked up many human radio signals. They seemed confused and afraid, just like all new species when they first saw Council ships. Commander, the sensor officer suddenly shouted. A human ship is approaching the blockade. Young Ho stood up. Show me. The main screen lit up. A single human ship moved slowly toward them. It was smaller than his flagship and carried no obvious weapons. Its white hull had strange markings in the human's language. Translation computers say the ship is named Peacekeeper, his officer reported. They're broadcasting a message on all frequencies. Let's hear it, Young Ho ordered. A calm human voice filled the bridge. This is Captain Ho-jun of the Earth diplomatic vessel Peacekeeper. We come unarmed and wish to talk. We believe there must be a misunderstanding. Please respond. Young Ho blinked all 4 eyes in surprise. This was new. Usually, new species either attacked in anger or begged for mercy. These humans wanted to talk. Scan that ship completely, he ordered. Check for hidden weapons, cloaked escorts, anything unusual. His crew worked fast. The results made Young Ho even more confused. The human ship really was unarmed. It carried no weapons at all. Its shields were basic, meant only for protection from space debris. It was exactly what it claimed to be, a ship meant for peaceful talk. Commander, his second-in-command said quietly, what should we do? This isn't in the standard protocol. Young Ho stared at the human ship on his screen. He had clear orders. Make humans submit or defeat them if they fought. But what if they did neither? What if they just wanted to talk? He opened a channel to High Command. They needed to know about this. As he waited for a response, Young-ho watched the human ship float peacefully before his mighty fleet. For the first time in his military career, he didn't know what to do next. Back in the council chamber, Ji-ho received Young-ho's urgent message. He quickly called another emergency meeting. The council members gathered, eager to hear how humans had reacted to their show of force. "They want to negotiate," Sun-lei asked in disbelief when she heard the news. "This must be a trick. No species has ever responded this way." "The scans show no deception," Ji-ho said, reading Young-ho's report. "Their ship is truly unarmed. They simply want to talk." Tae-ri stepped forward, her eyes bright with excitement. "This proves what I suspected. Humans are different. They see diplomatic solutions where others see only conflict. We should talk to them and show weakness." Sun-lei countered. "If we talk, other species might think they can question our authority too." Ji-ho raised his hand for silence. This decision would affect the entire galaxy. If they showed weakness now, their power might fade. But if humans truly had a different way of doing things, forcing them to submit might be a mistake. As the council argued, Ji-ho looked at the human ship on the big screen. It waited patiently, making no aggressive moves. Perhaps, he thought, the galaxy was about to change in ways none of them expected. The first part of this story was about to end. But whether it would end in peace or war, submission or understanding, no one could say. The humans had surprised them all. And this was just the beginning. Captain He-jun stood calmly on the bridge of the Peacekeeper, looking at the massive alien fleet through the main window. The council ships were beautiful in a frightening way. Their dark hulls seemed to swallow the light from nearby stars. Each ship was bigger than anything humans had built, and there were hundreds of them. "Still no response to our message, Captain," reported his communications officer. He-jun nodded. He understood their confusion. As a veteran of Earth's last global conflict, he knew how enemies usually acted. These aliens expected either a fight or surrender. They didn't know what to do with a peaceful approach. "Send the message again," he ordered. "Add that we're willing to wait as long as needed. We believe peaceful talk is worth the time." On the council flagship, Commander Young-ho watched the human ship with growing uncertainty. He had fought many battles but had never faced an enemy who simply wanted to talk. His training hadn't prepared him for this. "Commander," his second-in-command said, "High Command wants to know our status. What should I tell them?" Young-ho thought carefully before answering. "Tell them the human ship remains in position. They continue to request peaceful talks. No signs of hostile intent detected." The response from High Command came quickly. The humans would be allowed to send 3 representatives to the flagship. They would be searched for weapons. Any wrong move would be met with immediate force. "Send the message to the human ship," Young-ho ordered. On the Peacekeeper, He-jun read the alien's message with interest. "Only 3 representatives," he said to his crew. "They're being careful. That's good. It means they're taking us seriously." He chose his team carefully. Besides himself, he selected Dr. Minji, Earth's leading expert in alien cultures, and Bin-ho, a skilled translator who had studied the Council's language from their broadcasts. The 3 humans took a small shuttle to the Council flagship. As they approached, they saw how truly massive it was. The shuttle bay they entered could have held their entire ship. Armed guards met them. The aliens were tall, with gray skin and 4 eyes. They carried weapons He-jun had never seen before. The guard searched the humans thoroughly, seeming surprised to find no hidden weapons. "Follow us," one guard said in rough human language. "Commander Young-ho will see you now." They walked through long corridors. The ship's inside was as impressive as its outside. Everything was made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Other crew members stopped to stare at the humans. Many had never seen their species before. The command center's doors opened to reveal a large room full of alien technology. Young-ho stood in the center, his 4 eyes studying the humans carefully. "I am Commander Young-ho," he said formally. You are either very brave or very foolish to come here. Hajum stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Thank you for allowing this meeting, Commander. I am Captain Hajun. With me are Dr. Minji and translator Binho. We come seeking understanding, not conflict. Young Ho's eyes blinked in different patterns, a sign of confusion. Binho realized. The aliens truly didn't understand their approach. You know we could destroy your entire fleet, Young Ho asked, yet you come unarmed. We believe showing trust is the first step to earning trust, Hajun replied. We study your broadcasts. The council is powerful and organized. We respect that. We don't want to fight. We want to learn from you. Minji stepped forward, holding a datapad. We've prepared information about Earth and humanity. We hope sharing knowledge will help us understand each other better. Young Ho accepted the datapad carefully, as if it might be a weapon. His crew watched tensely as he reviewed the information. The pad showed Earth's history, focusing on how former enemies became allies through diplomacy and trade. This says your planet had many wars, Young Ho said, but then the fighting sides worked together afterward. How is this possible? We learned that victory through force alone doesn't last, Hajum explained. Real peace comes from understanding each other and finding ways to work together. Even the worst enemies can become friends if they try to understand each other. Young Ho shared this information with High Command. In the council chamber, the leaders argued about what it meant. It's a trick, Admiral Sunmei insisted. They're trying to make us lower our guard. But Tae-Ri, the xenoanthropologist, saw it differently. Look at their history. They're telling the truth. Humans really do turn enemies into allies. It's their greatest strength. Back on the flagship, Hajum continued talking with Young Ho. He explained how Earth's nations fought terrible wars, but then helped rebuild their enemy cities. He told stories of soldiers who tried to kill each other, becoming close friends years later. After our last global war, Hajum said, we realized something important. Fighting is easy. Making peace is harder but better. When we help our enemies become friends, we both grow stronger. Young Ho listened with growing interest. The human's words challenged everything he knew about power and control. The council ruled through force, but these humans suggested a different way. What exactly do you want from the council? Young Ho finally asked. First, we want peace, Hajun replied. We don't want war with anyone. Second, we want to trade. Goods, knowledge, culture. Third, we want to join the galactic community as equals, not as conquered people. Equals. Young Ho's translator had trouble with this word. The council doesn't have equals. There are rulers and ruled. This is how the galaxy works. Minji spoke up. Maybe that's how it has worked until now. But things can change. Humans have learned that treating others as equals often works better than trying to control them. As they talked, Young Ho began to understand why High Command found humans so confusing. They were powerful enough to achieve space travel on their own, but they didn't want to fight. They faced a superior force but didn't surrender. Instead, they suggested a completely new way of doing things. Commander, one of his officers interrupted. High Command demands an update. What should I tell them? Young Ho looked at the three humans. They waited calmly, showing no fear despite being surrounded by enemies. He made a decision that would change galactic history. Tell High Command that the humans are different, he said. They offer peace without weakness, friendship without submission. We should listen to what they have to say. In the council chamber, this message caused an uproar. Sunmei and her supporters demanded immediate action to force human submission. But others, led by Tae-Ri, argued for giving humans a chance. High Commander Jeho listened to both sides. The humans had surprised them again. They faced the council's mighty fleet without fear, yet they sought peace instead of conflict. They were either very wise or very strange. Perhaps they were both. Commander Young Ho, Jai-Ho sent his message. Continue talking with the humans. Learn more about their way of thinking. But remember, if they make one wrong move, destroy them. On the flagship, He-Jun sensed the aliens' confusion and fear. He understood. Humans were challenging their entire way of life. Change was always scary, especially for those in power. Commander Young-Ho, he said gently, we know this is difficult. Your way has worked for a long time. But consider this. What if there's a better way? What if the galaxy could be united by friendship instead of fear? Young-Ho stared at the human for a long time. In all his years of service, he had never met anyone who thought this way. It was strange, frightening, and somehow exciting. You are either the wisest species we've met, Young-Ho finally said, or the most dangerous. I'm not sure which. He-Jun smiled. Maybe we're a little of both. But we'd rather be wise friends than dangerous enemies. The choice is yours. As the first official meeting between humans and the Council ended, both sides had much to think about. The humans returned to their ship, leaving behind confused but intrigued aliens. Young-Ho watched the peacekeeper through his window, wondering if this day would be remembered as the beginning of a new age in galactic history. The humans had done something no other species had managed. They had made the mighty Council question its ways, not through force or technology, but through the simple suggestion that there might be a better way to do things. Part 2 of this story was ending, but the real changes were just beginning. The galaxy watched and waited to see what would happen when an unstoppable force, the Council's power, met an unfamiliar idea, the human way of peace through understanding. Tae-Ri sat in her research chamber aboard the Council station, surrounded by screens showing Earth's history. As the Council's chief xenoanthropologist, she had studied many alien species, but humans fascinated her more than any other. She focused on a particular video from Earth's archives. It showed two human leaders shaking hands after signing a peace treaty. Just 3 years earlier, their nations had been at war. Now they were trading partners. How do they do it? She wondered aloud. How do they turn hatred into friendship so quickly? A message notification flashed on her screen. Captain He-Jun had sent more historical records from Earth. Tae-Ri opened them eagerly. These documents showed how former enemy nations helped rebuild each other after wars. In the Council chamber, Admiral Sunmei was giving a very different presentation about humans. Her screen showed Earth's military bases and weapons. They talk about peace, she told the Council members. But they keep their weapons. They speak of friendship while maintaining armies. We cannot trust them. High Commander Jai-Ho listened carefully. Sunmei's warnings made sense, but something about them felt wrong. He turned to Tae-Ri, who had just entered the chamber. You've studied their history, he said. What do you think about their weapons? Tae-Ri stepped forward confidently. Yes, humans keep weapons, but look how they use them. In the last 50 years, they've used their military forces more for disaster relief and peacekeeping than for fighting. They turned their war tools into peace tools. That makes no sense, Sunmei argued. Why build weapons if not to use them for war? Because humans understand something we don't, Tae-Ri replied. They know that true strength isn't just about having power. It's about how you use it. On the Peacekeeper, He-Jun was preparing for another meeting with Commander Young-Ho. This time, he had something special to share. Are you sure about this? Dr. Minji asked him. Showing them our greatest failures might make us look weak. He-Jun nodded. They need to understand our whole story, not just our successes. Real trust comes from complete honesty. The human delegation returned to the Council flagship. Young-Ho noticed they carried more data devices than before. His crew had grown less tense around the humans, though they still watched them carefully. Welcome back, Young-Ho said. High Command is very interested in our talks. He-Jun placed a data device on the meeting table. Today, we want to show you something important. Our mistakes. These are records of our worst wars, our greatest failures, and how we learned from them. Young-Ho's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. No species had ever willingly shown the Council their weaknesses. He activated the device, and images filled the room. The humans showed scenes from their world wars, their civil conflicts, and their environmental disasters. But after each terrible event, they showed what happened next. Former enemies working together to rebuild, soldiers becoming peacekeepers, and nations joining forces to fix their damaged planet. "We're not perfect," Hejun explained. "We've made many mistakes, but each failure taught us something. We learned that working together works better than fighting each other." Young Ho watched a scene where two nations that had fought bitterly were now running a joint space station. "Your people forgave their enemies so easily." "Not easily," Hejun corrected him. "Forgiveness is hard work. Trust must be earned. But we found that helping our enemies become friends made us all stronger and safer than keeping them as enemies." This information spread quickly through the Council. Some members were shocked that humans would willingly show their weaknesses. Others were impressed by their honesty. In her chamber, Tae-ri studied these new records with growing excitement. She sent an urgent message to High Commander Jio. "Humans aren't just different," she wrote. "They're showing us a completely new way to handle power. They build trust through honesty about their weaknesses. They gain strength by helping others become strong. It's the opposite of how we've always done things." Jaiho read her message several times. In all his years leading the Council, he had never considered that there might be a different way to use power. The Council had always believed that showing strength and hiding weakness was the only way to maintain control. He called an emergency session of the Council. This time, instead of the military leaders, he asked Tae-ri to speak first. Tae-ri stood before the Council, surrounded by Earth's historical records. "Look at what humans have achieved," she said. "They went from world wars to global cooperation in less than a century. They turned bitter enemies into close allies. They built a space program by joining with their former rivals instead of defeating them." "But how can this work?" one Council member asked. "If you help your enemies become strong, won't they use that strength against you?" "Humans found a different answer," Tae-ri explained. "When you help others succeed, they're more likely to become partners than enemies. Humans call it win-win thinking, finding solutions that help everyone improve." In the Council chamber, this idea caused intense debate. Many members couldn't understand how helping others become strong could be good for anyone. But others, especially younger members, were intrigued by this new way of thinking. Meanwhile, on the flagship, Young Ho continued learning from Hejun. The human captain shared stories of how Earth's nations learned to work together despite their differences. "We still disagree about many things," Hejun said. "We still compete with each other, but we learn to do it peacefully, through trade and cooperation instead of war." Young Ho thought about his own career. He had won many battles and earned many honors. But had any of his victories created lasting peace? Had forcing others to submit ever made them truly loyal to the Council? "Your weight is strange to us," he told Hejun. "We've always believed that power must be taken and held by force. The idea of sharing power, of helping others become strong, it goes against everything we know." "Change is always difficult," Hejun agreed. "But consider this, which is stronger? A chain where each link must be forced to hold, or one where each link chooses to hold together?" This question spread through the Council like a wave. In chambers and corridors, Council members debated its meaning. Some, like Sunmai, still saw it as dangerous thinking that would weaken the Council's power. But others began to see new possibilities. Tae-ri worked tirelessly, studying human history and sharing her findings. She showed how Earth's nations had built something stronger than an empire. They had created a community where members helped each other grow. "Humans don't just avoid war," she explained to Jio. "They make peace profitable. They turn enemies into trading partners. They create situations where working together brings more benefits than fighting." Jaiho spent long hours thinking about these ideas. The Council had ruled the galaxy through force for thousands of years. Their way had worked, but it required constant military presence and the threat of violence. Was there really a better way? As Part 3 of the story drew to a close, the Council faced its greatest challenge. Not a military threat, but an idea. The human way of turning enemies into friends, of building strength through cooperation instead of conquest, challenged everything they believed about power. The galaxy waited to see what would happen next. Would the Council accept this new way of thinking? Or would they reject it and force humans to submit like all others before them? The answer would shape the future of all species in the galaxy. High Commander Jeho stood in his private chamber, watching the stars through his window. The past few weeks had changed everything. He thought he knew about power and leadership. The data pad in his hands contained Captain Hejun's latest proposal, a new way to welcome developing species into the galactic community. "Enter," he called when someone knocked on his door. Tairi and Admiral Sunmai walked in together. The two had become symbols of the Council's internal debate about humans. "High Commander," Sunmai said firmly, "we must end this now. Every day we talk with humans, more Council members question our traditional ways. This is dangerous. Is change always dangerous?" Tairi asked quietly. "The humans have shown us that there might be a better way to lead the galaxy." Jeho turned from the window. "Both of you make good points. Sunmai is right. Our ways have kept peace for thousands of years. But Tairi is also right. Perhaps there is a better way." He activated a large screen on the wall. It showed the human ship Peacekeeper floating peacefully near the Council flagship. In the weeks since first contact, not once had the humans shown any hostile intent. "Look at what they've achieved," Jeho said. "They face our fleet without fear, yet they seek friendship instead of battle. They show us their weaknesses, yet appear stronger for it. They challenge our ways, yet do it with respect." On the Council flagship, Commander Yumho was having a similar conversation with Hejun. The human captain had spent many hours sharing Earth's history and ideas about peace. "Your proposal is very bold," Yumho said, looking at his own copy of Hejun's plan. "You want to completely change how the Council deals with new species." Hejun nodded. "The old way of forcing submission creates hidden anger. Sooner or later, that anger leads to rebellion. But if we help new species develop and join the galaxy as partners, they become natural allies." "But how can we trust new species to choose peace?" Yumho asked. "What if they choose war instead?" "Then we face them together," Hejun replied. "But not as rulers fighting rebels, as a united community protecting peace. There's a big difference." Yumho thought about this. He had won many battles for the Council, but every victory required constant military presence to maintain. The humans suggested a different kind of victory, one that lasted because people chose to maintain it. Back in the Council chamber, Jeho called for the most important vote in Council history. The chamber was full. Even members who usually appeared as holograms had come in person. "We face a choice," Jeho announced. "Continue our old ways, or try something new. Captain Hejun has proposed a new system for integrating developing species into our community." He displayed Hejun's plan on the large screens. Instead of forcing new species to submit, the Council would offer them guidance and support. New species would have to follow basic rules about peace and cooperation, but they would join as partners, not subjects. "This is foolishness," Sunmai declared. "The Council's power comes from our strength. This plan would make us weak." "Would it?" Tairi stepped forward. "Humans achieve space travel on their own. They face our fleet without fear. Yet they choose peace and offer friendship. Is that weakness, or a different kind of strength?" The debate lasted many hours. Some Council members supported the old ways, fearing change would bring chaos. Others saw the wisdom in the human approach. Finally, Jeho raised his hand for silence. "Before we vote, I want everyone to see something." He activated a special recording from Earth's history. The recording showed scenes from after Earth's greatest wars. Former enemies helped rebuild each other's cities. Old soldiers who once fought became friends. Nations that tried to destroy each other now work together in space. Look carefully, Jaiho said. Humans didn't achieve this through force. They did it by choosing to turn enemies into friends. Their way created something stronger than fear. It created trust. The council chamber grew quiet as members thought about his words. Even Sunmai seemed less certain of her position. We will now vote, Jaiho announced. Do we accept the human proposal for a new way of galactic cooperation? The voting took place in silence. Each council member made their choice. When the results appeared on the main screen, even Jaiho looked surprised. By a small margin, the council had voted to try the human way. Let's begin at once, Jaiho said. Call Captain Hejun and his team to the chamber. It's time to build something new. When Hejun, Minji, and Binho entered the council chamber, they found it changed. Instead of the usual rows of seats facing the High Commander's position, the room had been arranged in a circle. Jiho had ordered this change to show the new spirit of cooperation. Captain Hejun, Jaiho said warmly, the council has voted to accept your proposal. We want to create a new kind of galactic community, one built on cooperation instead of submission. Hejun bowed respectfully. We are honored by your trust. We know this change won't be easy, but we believe it will make the galaxy stronger and more peaceful. To begin this new age, Jaiho announced, we will create the Joint Diplomatic Corps. Tairi and Hejun will lead it together, showing that different species can work as equals. The new organization would help developing species join the galactic community peacefully. Instead of facing warships, new species would meet diplomats and teachers. They would learn about the galaxy and find their place in it as partners, not subjects. Even Sunme found a role in the new system. Her military experience would help protect peace, not enforce submission. She began working with human military leaders to create a joint peacekeeping force. As the day ended, Jaiho stood with Hejun at the chamber's window, watching ships from both civilizations moving peacefully through space. Your people have changed the galaxy, Jaiho said, not through force or technology, but through an idea that peace is stronger than fear and friendship is better than submission. Hejun smiled. We just shared what we learned from our own history. The hardest battles are won not by defeating enemies, but by turning them into friends. Young-ho, who had watched all this happen, added his own thoughts. When you first approached our fleet wanting to talk, I thought you were either very brave or very foolish. Now I understand. You were both. And that's what made your way work. As news of the changes spread through the galaxy, many were surprised. The mighty council, known for forcing others to submit, had chosen a new path. They had learned this path from humans, a species that refused to submit or fight, but instead offered friendship and a better way. The story of how humans stunned the galaxy by wanting to negotiate became famous. It showed that sometimes the greatest power isn't in weapons or technology, but in the simple choice to seek understanding instead of victory. Years later, when new species reached the stars, they didn't face a threatening fleet. Instead, they met diplomats from many species working together. The galaxy had changed, and it all began because humans dared to suggest a different way. The old saying that victory comes through strength remained true. But now the galaxy understood what humans had known, that the greatest strength comes not from the power to destroy enemies, but from the wisdom to turn them into friends.